Today, we're going to talk about the fourth trimester, which is really post-recovery, postpartum. And my guest, Emily Montague, is really passionate in helping women heal faster, understanding the TCM and Chinese culture way of healing postpartum. She is also passionate about food, specifically the nourishing aspect of healing post-baby or post-birth. So you're going to be in for a treat because we're going to talk about recipes. We're going to talk about all the things that we need to advise our patients postpartum so they can recover and be enjoying their baby and have more to come. Are you ready? Let's go. Today on the AcuPro Show, my guest is Emily Montague, and we're going to talk about one of my dearest, close to my heart subject, which is postpartum recovery, which is such a fascinating subject to see the ancient wisdom of China and the way we do it in, let's say, North America, specifically in the Western world. Emily has 5 children, so I want to know how she did the whole postpartum. That would be really fun to learn. And she has a course that's called the Sitting Month, which is all about the beautiful nourishing aspect of postpartum. So welcome to the AcuPro Show, Madame Emily.
Thank you. My name is Emily Montague. I am super excited to be here with Clara. I think she's the acupuncture pro. Like, her name is perfect. And I love acupuncture. I love traditional Chinese medicine. It's also something that's super dear to me. I've lived in China before. I speak Mandarin and Cantonese. There's just a part of me that is Chinese. So I love it so much.
First of all, which area of China did you live in? How hard was it to learn Mandarin? Because I envy you. I would love to speak it. And what were you doing in China?
I actually lived in Hong Kong, China for 18 months, and I moved around throughout Hong Kong and lived in different areas. I was actually there as a missionary for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. When I was there, I learned Cantonese. I spent lots of time studying. I was learning just a lot of great things about China, their culture, the way that they do things. The ability to learn Chinese came with a lot of study, but also pretty naturally because I was working with people that were Chinese every day. So I was like being forced to learn language, as you know, learning a second language, you know how that is. And then when I got home from living in Hong Kong, I actually went to school in Utah and I got my degree in Mandarin Chinese. So I wanted to actually do public relations with China. I wanted to continue working with China. I just loved it so much. And as my life ended up playing out, it turns out that I'm doing postpartum recovery through my PR skills with China. I'm just translating things from Chinese into English. Mandarin and Cantonese are very different, but there are similarities. And it's just fun for me. I love speaking it. It's an amazing language.
It's interesting because I know that Cantonese has way more tones than Mandarin, for example, and I've been to Hong Kong and obviously where they speak Cantonese. So how did you learn Mandarin since you were not in mainland China? Is it when you came back to Utah and that's how you learned it?
Yes. So I learned Cantonese first, and then I came back, started studying in university again. And I was like, you know what? I really love public relations. That was what my degree was originally going to be in, but I changed my major once I realized I really want to do public relations work with China and I need to know Mandarin because Cantonese is only spoken in a couple of areas and Mandarin is the main language. And I could also work with Taiwan or things like that. So I was like, I need to learn Mandarin. And when you have friends and you can communicate with them and ask them questions, just being able to communicate with other people, that's what I feel like really helps the language a lot.
That's great. Like I said, I'm envious because you have such an advantage when you're able to speak, to read the text, to translate those texts. And I feel like Mandarin or Chinese is much easier to read than to speak because once you understand the characters and you know how everything happens from the vertical to the first one to how to write, but even to read itself, is so much easier because you don't have to pronounce. That's the problem I had when I came to Canada and didn't know English. I could read a lot of it and then I would look at the word and go, how do you pronounce that? Why is this tuna, but it's tunnel? Why is it not tunnel? It should be tunnel.
Yeah, totally, right?
So, the pronunciation is the hardest part. For example, in French, we don't pronounce the H. And so when I have to say a hotel, I really have to think hotel, because in French we say hotel. We don't pronounce the H, right? So that's why I always say like pronunciation, so much harder than writing. Okay, so now we know you are proficient in Mandarin and Cantonese and you can translate, which is fascinating. How did you end up being passionate about postpartum recovery? Obviously, you have 5 children, so I'm sure you had to go through that as well. But where did that came from?
So when I got back from living in China, I ended up meeting my husband on a blind date, and he also speaks Mandarin and Cantonese. What we ended up doing is meeting with a Christian congregation that was all Chinese. So when we were there, I already had my first child. And with my first postpartum recovery, I was very American in my thought process of being like, all right, I'm going to just start doing everything as soon as I possibly can. I loved road biking. So as soon as I hit my 6-week appointment with my OBGYN and they're like, you're good to go, I was on my bike riding up canyons and just like pushing my body as hard as I could. So from that, my appendix needed to be removed. And then I also had a kidney stone that was too large to pass. So my body was obviously screaming at me and saying, listen, you just created a child and now you're pushing me, your body, like way too hard. My husband and I went and visited Toronto, Canada, saw the Asian culture there. When we were there, I had just had my baby. We met with some friends there. And then we came back to the United States and we were like, let's just check out this area in our neighborhood that has predominantly Asian community attending this Christian church. My friends there were pregnant with their second, living in the United States from Hong Kong. And I started asking them a ton of questions. I was like, all right, so this is what happened to me after I had my first baby. And now you're about to have your second baby. What are you doing? Because they were preparing tons of things. They were preparing for their parents to come and stay with them for a month. They were preparing specific foods, specific teas. They were ordering lots of foods that I'd never seen before. And I was like, what do all of these things do? Teach me everything. So they literally did. They taught me everything. And they were like, this is what you need to do. And by this time, I was like about to have my second child. And I was like, okay, I'm going to do this thing. It's called the sitting month. So the actual translation for Chinese, like postpartum recovery, is the sitting month. That's what it is. So in a lot of other circles, we hear it as postpartum confinement. I personally like the sitting month as a translation more just because confinement, I literally think of prison or jail. It's not really confinement, it's healing, and it's amazing. So I don't really want to associate it with something like that. Anyways, so they were telling me about it and helped me order teas from Hong Kong, helped me talk to my mom and be like, hey, mom, I want to do this recovery totally different. Would you be willing to come and stay with me for a month? And then a bunch of women so fascinated that I was an American woman and that I wanted to do the sitting month. And they were like, we'll cook for you. So they all took turns bringing food to me and they taught me just how to rest. And after that, consecutively, I had one specific friend that she and I really connected over it with. We ended up alternating kids. She would have one child and then I would have one child. And when I would have my kids, she and her husband would cook for me and I would pay them to cook for me for the full month. So that was like breakfast, lunch, dinner, teas, desserts, all the things. And then I really talked to my husband and I was like, listen, I'm going to rest for a full month. I'm not doing this the same way that I did the first time. That was a horrible experience and I'm not doing it again. And he was very supportive of that. And so was my family. And they just kind of were like, whatever you want to do, let's try it out. And then from that point, after I had my fifth, one of my neighbors had seen how I was recovering after giving birth. And she's like, I want to do what you just did. I want to do that too. And at that point, I was like, that would be cool for you to do that. I don't really know how you're going to do that. And I was like, I don't really want to do that for my neighbor. But then I had this other thought that was kind of like, if you don't share this information with your neighbor, it's going to be taken from you and given to someone else, and they're going to do this. And I was like, okay, I'll do it. So I ended up asking my friends that had cooked for me, like, hey, what are all the recipes that you did? What do I need to do? I felt like I was in school again. because I was learning all the new ingredients. I was learning what they do. I was learning about what the teas do and how to do it. And so I served her for a full month and I just did it for her. And then after that, other women started popping up that it was, hey, now you need to do it for this person. And then it was like, all right, now you need to turn this into a course because you can't do this for every woman in America or in North America. And you need to share this information. So that's kind of like how the sitting month was birthed through me and my friend that is my partner, Cherry Law, and she's from Hong Kong, and she and her husband are the ones that really taught me all the things that I needed to do. She and I are co-founders in the sitting month.
That's great. That's an awesome story because most courses or product or books or anything you're going to help and serve people around you comes often from your own experience, right? What did you live? And then how did you live it and how you can help others. So I love that. And so one of the things that obviously you did in the first pregnancy is the mistake that many Western women will do in the Western world. So I had a patient years ago that I treated during the whole pregnancy. And then, often when patients have their baby, they email me the picture of the newborn and say, this is the name, this is what happened. Great, I'm so happy. It's like we share the good news, right? Like you would do. So I got the email the day after she had the baby. And I was so happy, all this. 3 days after she had the baby, because now I know exactly the day she had the baby because I got the email. I see her at the mall and I said, what are you doing here? And she goes, oh, I have some shopping to do. I'm like, didn't you just have a baby 3 days ago? And she's like, yeah, but I'm busy. And I'm thinking, if this was a man who had open heart surgery, because this woman had C-section on top of it. So it was not even vaginal birth, it was a C-section. So let's say you have C-section, which is a major surgery kind of thing. They open you up. A man has an open heart surgery, they open you up. Or whatever, appendicitis, like you did, has an appendix removed. Small common surgery, we will say. Would they be walking around, running around at the mall? No, because everybody would serve them until they recover. They'd be in bed and people would bring them stuff and help them recover. But because women have had babies for thousands of years and forever and ever, they are basically thinking that, oh, this is normal stuff, so we just get up and we go. And I'm thinking, yeah, but it's still a traumatic experience of the body and it still needs to recover. So the first mistake is to not do anything, get up and go like nothing happened and you didn't have a baby. Do you see any other mistake that the Western woman has tendency to do postpartum that you have to really drive in with the knowledge you have acquired over the years?
There's a couple of things actually. One of them is just the importance of laying down, how that literally helps your uterus, your organs. When you're pregnant, everything is pushed up into your lungs. And when you have a baby, as soon as that baby is delivered, you want your organs to not just like drop. You want them to be supported, and that is through laying down. And even if you've had a C-section, you can lay down certain ways, right? They tell you like prop yourself up with a pillow or whatever that your doctor would recommend. But you want to lay down. In my mind, the first time I had a baby, I was like, I need to get up and I need to be moving because I want my blood to be circulating. But actually, you want to lay down and you want your blood to start circulating by the teas and what you're eating, because specific traditional Chinese medicine foods will help circulation and they turn on certain meridians. And when those meridians are on, your body is circulating, right? You know all about this. I think acupuncture is amazing. So the thing is, lay down as much as you can after you have a baby. For some women, it's like, I can't lay down. Like, I just don't. I have ADD, I have ADHD. I can't lay down. And I'm like, then set a timer and pretend like it's exercise. Just like you would exercise for 30 minutes. Set a timer for 30 minutes and lay down, and that's your exercise for the day. That's the focus. So laying down is one of them, but also what we eat. It's so easy to find things that are like, oh, this has so much nutrition in it because it's a protein shake, or it's got so many added ingredients that are vitamins and minerals and all of this. But those things can actually be really hard for your body to digest and assimilate. The foods that are actually in the Sitting Month course are so simple and basic, but they heal the body. So when you're healing the body through food, your body will naturally do exactly what it needs to do. So the uterus can start to contract on its own, but then there are certain things like ginger, for instance, that will literally help the body continue to contract the uterus down. So day 12 for vaginal delivery and day 20 for cesarean delivery, it's different because with a C-section, you have an incision. So you don't want your uterus to be totally contracting down immediately. You want to wait for that incision to heal, which once it has begun to do that, then it's safe to start really eating a ton of ginger. And there's this one specific dish, and it's called, in Cantonese, it's called gurn cho. In English, I call it sweet black vinegar ginger stew. It's a super long name. But anyways, what it has in it is a ton of ginger and this sweet black vinegar, and then also pig feet. And Americans are scared of things like feet. But the real deal is this is where collagen comes from. We like to take things in powders, but in the real thing, it's pig feet, right? Or chicken feet. I'm sure in France they have things like this too. But this dish, you cook it over several weeks and the ginger starts to dissolve, the pig feet start to dissolve, and you can't taste any of that stuff other than this sweet black vinegar, and it's delicious. But it's loaded with collagen, and when you start taking this day 12 or day 20, your body responds and you can feel like your uterus continuing to contract. So although your body will naturally do this to a certain point, we want to encourage the body, whether it's with acupuncture, whether it's with food, we want to help the systems of the body to continue to flow and to be circulating what it needs to do so that it can fully restore and heal. So I think just those two things, nutrition and rest, actually maybe a third, asking for support.
If you lack in confidence treating pregnant women, my complete TCM treatments for pregnancy online course is definitely for you. Over the years, I have seen how amazing Chinese medicine is when it comes to treating pregnancy issues, preparing patients for labor, and for post-childbirth recovery. I have helped countless of women through their pregnancy journey from postnatal care to post-childbirth. I created this course specifically to give you the confidence in treating pregnancy patients successfully and, most importantly, safely. You will get 6 continuing education hours after you pass a multiple choice quiz and receive a certificate. You can download the PDF versions of the slides. You have access to the course forever, so you can watch it over and over again if you need to. And I offer a 7-day money-back guarantee because I stand behind my products and I want to make sure my courses are very beneficial to you and to your patients. Listen to what people who invested in this course had to say. Unfortunately, the education I received at school around cervical ripening and induction was extremely minimal. I appreciate all your resources so much. My patients respond so well when I tweak my treatment to what I have learned through your course. I don't know what I would do without your expertise and your love for sharing TCM. You are the best. This makes my day because this is why I do what I do. To invest in my complete TCM treatment for pregnancy, check out the link in the show notes below or go to my website, acuproacademy.com, and click the TCM course tab on the menu bar. That was going to be my next question. In Canada, and since I've been here, I've had years and years of practice with patients, but I also have had lots of friends and I've been here for a long time. So what I found is interesting is most people in Canada have no support because a lot of people will leave wherever they're from, let's say, and move from Toronto to Vancouver, right? And they'll arrive in Vancouver, meet their partner, have babies, but their family, the grandparents, are all back in Ontario and Toronto. So they are in a unit of 2 people. And so you need, like you did, you had neighbors. So if you have people that are going to be able to help you, that is so important to have that support, which is not always available because family is so far away. And maybe you haven't been here long enough. Maybe you just moved here a few months ago. You don't have friends yet. In France, for example, once you have a baby, the government pays for someone to come to your house for 6 months to do everything: cleaning, cooking, taking care of bathing the baby if you're tired, if you're sleeping, you take naps. Like literally they take care of everything. So your partner could go to work or stay here for a couple of weeks and then go back to work to support the family, because we don't have a lot of maternity leave, or not that long anyway. But they do send someone to do everything. We don't have in Canada, I can tell you that. So how do you coach or help people or advise people on getting help? Because two people is not enough. It's really hard, right? It's not easy. Maybe for the first 2 weeks, the partner can have some time off, but often they don't have more than that. And they have to go back, and then you're all alone at home, and you had 5 children. So imagine if you have a family that has 2 or 3 children and now you have a new baby, what do you do with the other toddler that's small and is around needing help, support, and all your attention as well? I would love for you to talk about that.
For me personally, with having 5 kids, like I said, I would have my mom, my mother-in-law came at some point, my sister-in-law came, different people came and took care of that. And then I had my friend Sherry cooking for me. So the nutrition part of it was taken care of. I'd planned ahead. I knew I wanted to pay her, because I knew she would also do it as a service, but I didn't want that. I wanted there to be that exchange. I love what you said also, because Canada and the United States are melting pots. We have people from all over the world, and then they come here and they're pursuing their dream. That's a super masculine energy that is like push forward, get it done, build it, do all the things. And when we come into our feminine energy, it's more rest, it's more calm. So I think that when women understand what their feminine energy really is, this is part of my vision of the Sitting Month, is helping women understand we really need each other. You need your neighbors. You need to be friends with people. We can't be just living on our phones. We need to really connect with people. We need to find people that we can trust, whether that's in school groups or whether that's in religious groups, whether that's in communities, whatever it is. We need to start building that as women, because women do so well with group support. Men can do things on their own. For instance, they go into a gas station or they're looking for something in the store. They're not going to ask someone for help. They're going to search for 30 minutes and try and find it on their own before they ever ask for help. Whereas a woman will go and be like, hey, do you know where this thing is? And then they'll get the help that they need immediately, right? So my advice is we need to start reaching out to each other. And that's what I'm hoping to kind of snowball effect. I know it will take time, but it's like my grassroots efforts of, hey, I see you're pregnant. What can I do to help you? And even me reaching out to someone else and being like, hey, I know that you're going to need help. Even if you don't even realize that you're going to need help. I've had 5 kids. I know that you're going to need help. Just let me help you in whatever way. I'll come over. I'll do your laundry. I'll cook for you. I'll do whatever. So it's like breaking down those barriers of feeling isolated and needing to do things on our own. Because as women, we're amazing. Women are so great. Like we can help each other and we can change the way that things are done.
That's a beautiful way of looking at it. It's a community. We need a village. So if we help each other, it's a give and take, right? I'll help you, you'll help me. And we're here to support each other, because specifically because women know what it is to give birth and postpartum and having to recover, right? So there's that sisterhood that is really connected. I like that you share that in that aspect, because, okay, let's say you have help and you have the nutrition, which is so key, because nutrition is at the center of our health. It is the power of healing. This is why I always laugh when people go to hospital and the hospital food is like Jell-O and white bread with some bologna or whatever they give them. And I'm like, if you give them really good nutritious food like bone broth with lots of vegetables and electrolytes coming from really a lot of minerals and soup, they would heal much faster. But you give them food that I consider not very nutritious and not really food. So I love that you mentioned that, because I think that is so key, and you have great recipe. I love the recipe you shared. And I have to say, for anybody that's watching this on YouTube, because I know some people will listen to the podcast and they might not see you, but anybody that's watching on YouTube, Emily has such a good complexion. She has great essence. For someone that has had 5 children, you don't look overly exhausted. You don't look like your essence was really depleted by your 5 children. And I believe it's because you learn to recover. And once you recover, then you can have the next child without feeling like, I am so depleted, how am I going to do this again, kind of thing. So I have to say, your complexion and TCM perspective, the essence essence looks really good. You have that vitality in your face, which is fantastic. So I want to share that. When we look at the aspect of food and then the laying down and the support, what about what affects a lot of women postpartum is the mental health. The hormones are trying to balance. So the mental health, like you said, the loneliness, the depression, the irritability, whatever comes up as an emotion that feels like we're not good enough, or we feel like we're just not being able to rise up to the challenge, or whatever the emotion comes up. How do you support the women postpartum when it comes to mental health?
Well, thanks for that compliment first. And there's a couple of things. The first one is if you have a vaginal delivery, the sitting month is 28 days. If you have a cesarean delivery, it's going to be about 6 weeks. And you want to take that time to really rest. So when I say rest, I mean social rest, physical rest, mental rest, emotional rest, and sensory rest. There's lots of different types of rest that we need, and they actually restore us. So those different rests, like for instance, sensory rest, it's take a break from your phone. Take a break from being overly stimulated by all the things that you should be doing, could be doing, or that other people are doing, right? Social rest. Yeah, we want to have support, but you want to be really accurate in knowing who's going to support you and who's going to drain you. Because there are some people that will come into your life that they'll say, hey, I want to come and hang out with you postpartum. But when they come and hang out with you, they want stuff from you, even if it's not more than just like they want all your attention and they want you to be listening to their drama or whatever it is that they have going on in their life. And you can say, hey, listen, like right now, this isn't the time for me to hang out, but in a few weeks, I'll be ready. So for me, I had all vaginal births. So it was 28 days of rest for me. By the 28th day, I was ready to get out of my bed. I was ready to be up. I was ready to be doing all the things that I normally did. I was ready to be eating the foods that I normally ate. I was just done. I was ready. But for me, that meant that I had rested because I was mentally ready. I was like, okay, I know I can do this. I can do the laundry, even though there are times when it feels like I'm climbing Mount Everest. I can do this. So taking that time and being like intentional, I think the word is intentional, because when we're intentional about that time, I think it's awesome that in France you get help for 6 months. That is absolutely incredible. But with this, if you can take 4 weeks, you will be shocked at how much your body can just recover, and your brain and your mental. Like the other thing is with hormone shifts and changes and all of those things, understanding that that's going to affect your emotions and that that's just how it is as women. Like we are a roller coaster and it's okay. But acupuncture actually really helped me with that. So there were specific things that I knew that I was going to do to support myself to be able to recover. And one of them was acupuncture. So I knew like, okay, if I'm starting to feel off, I'm going to go and do an acupuncture session. I'm going to get a treatment done because I know that's going to help make sure everything is running the way that it needs to and smooth. And then nutritionally, I knew like, all right, I'm eating these things for a purpose. So being intentional about what I was eating, especially during that time. And that I just think speeds up, I don't want to say speeds up the recovery, but it does. It's like it doesn't necessarily need to take 18 months to recover from having a baby, especially right after. If you focus on what you need to be doing, then your body can then handle what it needs to do.
I agree. If you feed your body really good, nutritious food and you rest, then those two together are going to be the catalyst for having the mental health piece following, right? Because your body won't be depleted to the point where it just can't think and it just feels like frazzled. And you're resting. Those two together will help the mental piece as well, right? Because I know you love to cook and create recipes and whatnot. To share one of the main recipe that you really love, that you love to eat when you were eating it. Give me the ingredients. How do you put it together? Obviously, your friends can cook it, but give me a quick recipe that you love that is part of postpartum that we can share here today.
Yeah, so one of the recipes that I like the most is called a black fungus steamed chicken. So black fungus, like I said, some of the translations in Chinese to English, I just feel like are really interesting. I'll use the word interesting. But black fungus is just a mushroom. But what it does is it's really great at circulation. It's helping your blood. And when you've had a baby, you want to do everything you can after, like postpartum, to get your blood circulating and restored. So you want to enhance the amount of like your blood volume, and you can actually do that with food. So this steamed dish is, I put it into a dish that I can steam. So I just lay the chicken, I've marinated the chicken in certain sauces, like black sesame oil is one of my favorites, and some other different sauces. And then I have soaked the black fungus mushroom and I cut it up into tiny pieces. And then I also use a dried lily flower that I rehydrate, and that is really good for your milk supply. So I cut that up, I put it into the dish, and then I steam it. And the mushroom and the lily flower just take on the flavors of the marinated meat. And then I also use something called choy sum. Choy sum is a vegetable that's a green vegetable, and it's balancing to the body. And also green vegetables, specifically this one, are amazing. If there was something that you could eat that would be similar to the composition of blood, it would be liquid chlorophyll green vegetables. So these two combinations with just any type of rice, like a brown rice, a white rice, whatever you like, that's one of the meals that I love personally. It's just so satisfying, and I know it's doing amazing things for my body. And then for dessert, I would probably have a black sesame soup. It's sweet. It's just made of ground up black sesame, and black sesame is just awesome for your hair, for your digestion. So there's satisfaction in getting something sweet and knowing that it's also doing something nutritionally for my body. It's not just a fun treat. You know what I mean? I'm actually getting satisfaction from eating something sweet and nourishment.
I love that because that's exactly it. In TCM, we say after you had a baby, we need to nourish your blood, right? That's really important. And black sesame, the black color is related to the kidney energy, kidney meridian, kidney organs in TCM, and the kidneys are representing or connected to the reproductive system. So it's really, if we want to nourish the reproductive system, which that's the case here, then black sesame, any kind of black food, black beans, black sesames, those black ingredients, I guess I should say, are really nourishing to the kidneys or the reproductive system. And then all the green, like you were mentioning, in a soup and cooked specifically, then that's really good to nourish the blood as well. In Chinese medicine, what's interesting is we also want to not put a burden on the digestive system because we are recovering, we are trying to heal. So having cooked food versus raw food, like you were saying, the protein shake, etc. No, you want to have cooked food that is easy to digest. You eat that soup and it goes nice and nourish your body without your body have to spend so much energy trying to break it down. So I really appreciate you sharing that as well, because that is the essence of how TCM views the digestive system and the postpartum as well. First of all, I want to thank you for coming and sharing this passion you have that came out of having children and loving the Chinese culture and China. But also, I really truly hope that people can get the education for themselves and then pass it on to their patients and the two people they know, and really drive that point that rest, good nutrition is really important. The sitting month, I love how that's translated in that perspective. What final word would you love to share with who's listening today that they can take with them and learn from your wisdom?
Just going off of what you just said, in that after you have a baby, you want your body to be warm. The first time that I had a child or gave birth, I was drinking green drinks, smoothies, everything right after. And those things can be so hard to digest, like you mentioned, and cooling. So in traditional Chinese medicine, it's all about the balance, the yin and the yang. Like we want to bring in balance. So with the sitting month, it's easy to follow, and it's going to help you know how to keep your body warm, which I like to think of it like this, in that after I have a baby, I want to trick my body into thinking it's still pregnant. The reason why is because when your body is pregnant, it's really warm. And the minute that baby is born, it goes into a cool state. So if I can trick my body into thinking it's still warm with my food, with my clothing, with how my environment is, whether it's warm or if I have a fan blowing on me, my body is going to totally relax if it's warm. And then it can assimilate the nutrients that I'm eating. It can then do all of the things it needs to recover. Just like if you were to put something in the freezer, it freezes in that position. So I don't want my body to be frozen in the position of immediately having a baby, because we all know that right after you have a baby, your stomach is kind of mind blowing. Like the first time I gave birth and my stomach, like immediately after, I'm like, what is going on? I didn't know that it would do this. Anyways, you want to make sure that you're warming your body so that it can move, it can flow, it's fluid, it's not frozen in place. Like we want things to be moving the way that they need to move.
Absolutely, stay warm. And you're right, because when you lose blood and when the baby comes out, that whole energy is very young, very fire, right? The baby comes out, it's a big event. And then right after, everything turns to yin, everything turns to cold. This is why yin time, which is rest time, should follow a big yang event like having birth. So that's the balance. I love that you share that because it's yin and yin is about resting. So thank you so much. We'll have the link to the sitting month underneath for everybody to check it out, because I think that's such a great value course that you're offering people so they can heal faster, move on forward, and have more babies without feeling like they got hit by a truck. That's the best way to say that. So thank you so much for coming on the show, Emily. I really appreciate you being here. And I can't believe you're in Utah, because I love Utah. It's one of my favorite states for hiking. If you've never been to Utah, whoever's listening, go check out Utah with Zion and Bryce and Arch and Moab. And if you're into hiking, to me, that's my favorite place. So thank you again.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much for spending your time with me today. I truly hope you benefited from this episode, and I would love for you to share it with a friend that may benefit from it as well. Follow the show, leave a review, and if you want more, go to my website, acuproacademy.com. I have tons of resources there with treatment protocols, case studies, free courses, and so much more. And connect with me on all social media at AcuPro Academy. I'm on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, X, Pinterest, and LinkedIn and TikTok. And no matter what, keep rocking it using TCM. Please listen to the disclaimer, because the AcuPro Show podcast and material shared through AcuPro Academy, which is a subdivision of Natural Health Sense Incorporated, are designed solely for educational and entertainment purposes. The utilization of information from this podcast or any associated material is at the user's discretion and risk. This content is not meant to replace the guidance of an acupuncturist, Chinese medicine doctor, medical doctor, physician, or any qualified professional, nor is it a substitute for proper diagnosis or treatment. Users are strongly advised not to ignore or postpone seeking medical advice for any existing medical condition with their healthcare professional regarding any health concerns.